Welcome to I'm Still Here, a podcast on making art after kids. I'm Mary Atkins.
And I'm Kate Tellers, and we're parents who are also people who make art.
What do we mean by art, Kate?
Just creative stuff.
Awesome. So today we have the extraordinary Glennis McCarthy here.
Hello. Hello.
Glennis McCarthy. What do they say? Glennis McCarthy, nay McMurray.
They do.
They were.
Glennis McCarthy, nay McMurray is like a tongue twister.
It is, yeah. There once was a girl named Glennis McCarthy, named McMurray. She was always in a hurry. Okay, I'll stop. Okay.
Hi. I'm so happy to have you here. Glennis is a great multi-talented person who I've known through many talents, through many years.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I could say, Glennis, if I were to describe you, I could say like Glennis is and I could put like 50 things after that.
Yeah.
Like what would you put after that?
I mean, I guess now I would say Glennis is a voice artist and nail artist.
Awesome.
Yeah. That's I mean, a mom.
Yeah.
But I mean, creatively speaking, that's where I am right now.
Right. What were some of your former A's?
Oh my God. I was an improviser. I was a stand-up. I was the CEO of a website for women in comedy. I was a musical theater performer. I was a musical improv performer. I was a is that everything?
What, like a dance madam? Is that what you call it?
A dance madam, please. What does that mean? What is a dance madam?
Dance
Yes. Oh my God. Yes. A dance igniter. Yeah. I created Dance Party where it was like,
I don't know it.
I love that you're like, it's like basically like, you're like, I created ketchup. Dance Party. If you don't know.
Oh yeah. We just like my friend Marcy and I would just get a bunch of women in a room. We'd turn the lights down and we'd murder them. No, we'd have like a disco light and then we'd do playlists and we would play music and we would just dance like idiots. Like we would just do like the lawnmower. We would do, we'd make up, we would do the robot and it would just be to like get exercise and have fun. And now there's satellite branches all over the world.
What?
There are.
It was in the Times.
Oh,
no, it was
yeah.
this major thing. Like I joke that she said ketchup, but it kind of is like ketchup.
It is.
Yeah, like I was kind of
you just did it with your friends.
I mean, it started with our friends, and then there was a girl in Chicago, and she wanted to. She had the same idea around the same time, so she kind of took our name, Dance Party, did it in Chicago, and then it was like all of a sudden, like Los Angeles and Australia and London and all these different places started like just doing Dance Party. I could never monetize it.
Wow.
Because I was like, I'd have to have a brick and mortar to monetize it. But yeah.
And people just show up? Is it like showing up to a yoga class or something?
Yeah, we do. I don't remember how we would tell people. We would just like maybe word of mouth.
Yeah, it was like pre-Facebook. And but I went to the one in LA, like completely no Glennis, no Marcy.
Yeah.
My sister would go to the one in LA all the time.
Yeah.
And then it was really like Lady Power before Lady Power was, Lady Power has always been, let's be real. But like it definitely felt very different from anything else that people were doing, like in the workout space, and in like any sort of gathering space. It was pre-social media.
Yeah.
When was this? So it was like late
this
90s
was like
or early
2000.
Late 90s.
Like,
please, I was born in 93.
1923. This
We
was
did it with the gramophone.
2000. Yeah. We'd have to stop and crank it, and then that would be a dance.
Yeah.
And we'd
Well,
like
you
crank
said
it up.
pre-Facebook, and I was thinking that Facebook was like early 2000s.
That's right. It was pre the people using like Facebook started as a thing that people did in college, I think. Like it was just a college
No, did you
networking
see
thing.
this? Yeah, that movie was about people using Facebook in college.
What? The social network. I know I have. Guys, I feel like we're progressively giving less information the more the podcast goes on. Anyway, it was
And
like,
a computer is a box.
a box with a mouse inside. He's very smart because he ate his grapes.
Yeah.
Okay. So
His grapes. Okay.
So it was like probably Oh, I remember. My sister had just moved to LA, so it was
Okay.
probably 2008.
Yeah, I was
And
going to say
it was already
2007 or 8.
established in 2000. Like that was around when my sister was doing it. So it had been a couple of
Yeah.
years, so like 2005, maybe 2006.
Mhm.
So people weren't using Facebook and social
Yeah.
media in the same way. It would be like email lists, I think. It must
Yeah.
have been.
I think they would like list our email and then they would email us and say, we want to come. And then we just kind of tell them where it was, have the room open, and people would pay like $5 to cover the space, and we would just dance.
Be a rehearsal space.
Wow.
Like what was the one across from the Public?
Oh,
love that space.
was that Champs? No.
No, it wasn't Champion. It
Oh,
was
I
across
can't
from the
remember the
Public.
name of
Crunch. Jen?
No, that's the gym. No, it was a rehearsal space though, and it was like a cool rehearsal space.
Yeah, it was
I think
cool.
I did my last Pro Brunswick rehearsal there.
Oh, so Pro Brunswick.
Pro Brunswick.
But I did start a bunch of things. Now that I look back, I'm like, I did Dream Roll, and now that's a thing where people are doing shows where they're like performing the role that they'd never play or the role of their dreams. And Dance Party is like now all over. And then Clock, Gorgeous Ladies of Comedy, and now there's like, women are all the rage,
Yeah.
So it's
a
like
lot of lady gathering stuff.
a lot of lady gatherings. Yeah. So
The Pro Brunswick was a musical improv group that Glennis and I were in a long time ago. Like 2002, 2003 maybe.
Yeah.
And we used to bill ourselves as the only all-female musical improv group in New York City, which was probably the truth.
Yep.
But I remember it was like, do we bill ourselves on the lady thing? Like, is that
Oh yeah, that used to be a big thing. Yeah.
is that counter-feminist or feminist? And anyway.
Yeah. Because do you need to point it out? Should we have to point it out?
Should we have to point it out that whatever? Anyway, we did. And we did a lot of musical improv. And that was super fun.
Mm-hmm.
And then, things went on from there. Anyway, Glennis is a lot of things.
Including a dance madam. That's my favorite thing so far.
Dance
I'm
madam.
putting that on my website. Amazing.
Do it. Dance madam. But and also you are a mom too.
I am a mom to a 3-year-old named Jack.
Yeah.
Jack Thomas McCarthy, nay McCarthy.
Nay McCarthy. Yeah.
Yes, I am a mom. I've been a mom for about 3 years now.
For as long as Jack is born.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's amazing. So you like did a lot of creative stuff for your entire life.
Yeah.
Always. And can you tell me like what are some of your fondest memories of like those like early days of, lighting all of these fires, like starting all of these lady movements?
Pre-Jack.
Right. Yeah. Pre-Jack. Fondest memories are definitely like the friendships that I made through doing these things. It was never, like with the short form improv that I started doing when I first moved here in like 2000. I moved here in 98 to New York. And like I started doing short form in 2000, and I don't remember anything fondly about doing that short form. It was all terrible, truly. I mean, it was like a teeny tiny stage, a woman that was manipulating us for money, like making us pay to bring people into the room. The playground, yeah. And just like terrible audience members who would just yell out like taint and, like hairy balls. And it was just like, oh God. So there was like nothing joyful about that, but the people that I met were wonderful and they helped me through my first early years. And then UCB, there was a lot of like wonderful stuff at the beginning, and then my insecurities started to build, but then the friendships were always the best part of that. Mm-hmm. So it was always the friendships and connections that I would make through my creativity.
Yeah. I can still remember some of the songs that we wrote, improvised as Pro Brunswick.
So you guys met doing improv.
We met. So Glennis subbed in. So the way it used to work at UCB, or maybe it still does. I don't know. I'm so old. Cut. Anyway. The way it worked is you would take level 1, level 2, you'd have to take all of these successive levels, and there would be people, we were all, I mean, it's probably even more so now, like we'd be into it. So as soon as you finished your level 1, you'd take that group and be like, who's in your level 2? And so there'd be people you'd track with. And Glennis subbed in on our level 2 class. So there was already like a posse. And I remember we were just like, oh, we'll take her.
Yeah.
Like, she is and we just like jived. I just remember you were like this like golden light. And so then like the way it always worked is you'd take all these classes together, and then you do a practice group, and then you do a rehearsal group. And then so that's how we started our practice group that never performed, but we did practice every week.
We did practice, but then we also had Sketchy Showy.
Oh, and we did write a sketch show that we wrote, and then like 10 years later watched the VHS of and decided we should revive it. But we have not revived it yet.
No, not yet. Not
But
yet.
there's some good stuff in there, I
we're,
think.
We're waiting for the year 3000.
Yes. We need another decade to pass.
Yes.
And then you will finally see hot toasties.
Yes.
Is one of the sketches. Anyway,
Yeah.
so then you would just like start doing all of these other projects. And then, but you would start projects that would like kind of explode into actual projects. Like you wouldn't have like an improv group that would just be that. You were sort of the force behind Pearl Brunswick, behind I Eat Pandas, behind Glock, behind, all of these other things.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, and and looking back, I'm like, I loved doing that creative stuff, but I think there was a lot of like, I want a distraction. I think we, like kind of touched on that when we were talking, but like, I wanted a distraction. I wanted to control things.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was my way of doing it. It was like, I'm going to start this, I'm going to control it. And then hopefully people will, listen to what I have to say,
Well, what do you think you were distracting yourself from?
Just feelings of insecurity, feelings of just feeling incomplete, I think, feeling like I didn't know what would make me feel whole. And I had and growing up with this need to like make my mom laugh and make my dad love me, it kind of manifested into being a comedian, even though I don't know if that's really ever what I wanted to be. I think I wanted to be a teacher. I just thought that like this would make them love me. My dad brought me to New York and I was like, this is great. Do you love it? Okay, I love it. I'm going to move here, And so it was always like living my life through other people. So I guess when I know why I started a lot of these projects. There was a very specific reason why I started a lot of them. And not a lot of it was based in happiness. A lot of it was based in fear and fear, a lot of fear.
It's interesting because I think about comedy and so much of it is, we can all probably talk for hours about Nanette, the Hannah Gadsby Netflix special or show that became a Netflix special. But so there's a lot of like the distance, the stepping away from something and commenting of it and having like that emotional insulation. But I also think, to your point, it is so much about control because the point of comedy isn't necessarily, it can be like byproduct to open minds or, or to give a perspective, but ultimately it's to make people laugh,
right? To
manipulate someone into a feeling. And so it is kind of, if you are a control freak that needs love, perfect, because laughter is joy. You have sparked that joy in someone. You have sparked something, and you get that immediate satisfaction of that.
Right. But then I'm also doing improv, which is like the least and the most amount of control you can have because you don't, excuse me, you're not responsible for remembering anyone else's words or, imbuing the feeling they were trying to bring across in this moment. You're responsible for everything, but you're also beholden to other people. So you kind of don't have control. And when you try to like wring that control out of an improv show, that's when it all falls apart.
Yeah.
So it's like this whole weird dynamic of control.
Yeah, that's so interesting because I definitely don't think of improv as being like, I freak out when I try improv because I feel completely out of control.
Right.
So it's interesting that you also feel a sense of control through improv.
Yeah. I feel like it was mostly based in, there was this freedom of, I'd always done musicals before, and there was this freedom of like, I can do whatever I want on stage. I can be I remember when I subbed into your class, Kate, it was like, I wasn't ever going to be with this teacher again. I wasn't, I had no stakes. So I was just really silly and weird. And in my other class, which was with Michael Delaney, he was very like by the book, and I was always trying to do it right.
Yeah.
So I remember going into that class and being like, that was the most fun I think I've ever had. Yeah. And then the first shows that you would do as a group were always the most fun because there were no stakes. It was just fun. And then as it went on, I would be like, no, this is wrong. No, we're not doing it right. We should be doing it right, and then I would slowly wring the life out of it,
Well, so much of, I think in most creative things, but particularly improv is about like great scene work in any type of scene comes from bold choices, I think. And like you happen to be very good at improv. So your like instincts to do something and to like try to control or to try to kind of do that means that a good improviser could play off, you give people a lot to play off of.
Yeah.
So I think there's like in that sort of dysfunction, a beautiful functionality in the nature of improv.
Right.
Or in the improv that you were in, because you have these big choices, these big ideas, and so you can, if partnered with the right group of people, like really make something blow up and be beautiful.
Right. But then I started to find people in my life who would kind of put out that fire, you know, and kind of squash my, I don't know, like it's your choice to stay in something, you know? So I think it was just comfortable for me to be in something, in relationships where people were like, you're not right. You're not funny. You're not this, you're not that, you're not that. And then I was like, oh, you're right. You're right. So then as my time went on doing improv, then I was like, it became more and more fear. I would be like terrified to go on stage. And I broke up my improv group of a very long time because I was just like, I don't know how to do this anymore. I'm not funny. I would do improv shows and like say the worst possible things you could say on stage. Like there's one, I won't repeat it, but there was one moment where like it still haunts me. Like I remember one girl I really respected looked at me and she was like, oh God. And I was like, oh God, what's happening to my brain?
I want to know.
No. I will not tell you. It's awful. I will not tell you. It's use your imagination, Mary. I will not tell you. No, but it was just like my brain just started to go, you're bad at this. You're bad at this. You're bad at this. And then I just
fucking implodes.
Yeah. And then I just like self-destructed and a lot of addiction, which, you know, that went hand in hand is like, how do I combat those feelings? I'll go out and get drunk. I'll drink and drink and drink. I'll get a job at a bar, karaoke bar. There's another. I'm a karaoke host. And then and a bartender.
Karaoke
madam. Yes. And Marie's Crisis. I mean, I would go in and sing there and, you know, but anywhere where I could like feel confident. And that was usually around alcohol.
So when you stopped doing it, so did you stop doing improv at some point?
I stopped doing improv. Yeah. After my, I wouldn't say I completely stopped. I stopped doing my musical improv group, which was a 2-person group, with Eliza Skinner, and it was great. And we've made our peace with that, you know, but, and I would do this other group, Baby Wants Candy, every once in a while. But then once I moved to LA, I was like, I would try to like dabble in it. And immediately I would just short out on stage and just like not be able to do it. So yeah, I stopped performing in like 2013, you know, pretty much altogether. Yeah.
And what took you to LA?
I don't know. I mean, I'd been in New York for 15 years and it just kind of felt like it was time. There's a lot of, I think it was a distraction, you know, it was like, I don't know what else to do, how else to be happy here. This is not working. You know, I didn't know what to do with Glock. I started Gorgeous Ladies of Comedy and I didn't know how to turn that into something. I didn't really like it. I felt like, you know, I want to be the star and I'm supporting all these women, which is great. But then do I want to do this? It was just very confusing. So, we moved to LA and then, I mean, it was a distraction for sure. It was like, let's, you know, what else can I do?
Upend our lives. And
Yeah, exactly. Like I don't have to deal with things. I can do a fresh start, something totally, completely different. And then all my problems will go away, you know? And then of course that didn't happen. So then I had a baby. And then all my problems got way worse. Not because of Jack.
So you decide to have a baby and it happens fast?
Yeah. I mean, I was like, I don't know what to do with my life. I mean, I had started using a lot more. I'd been smoking a lot more. My dad was about to pass away. So I was like kind of trying to process that through smoking a lot of weed. And I was getting really paranoid in my house. And like, I thought that people were going to break in and murder us. Like that was my fear all the time. My running thought was like every noise. I was like, someone's going to come in and murder us. And it was just like, I was just very living in fear and I didn't know what to do to how to combat that. And I was like, I think I need to have a baby. That'll probably fix everything. And so I said, let's have a baby. And Matt was like, oh, and he was very in his addiction too. Mm-hmm. And his addiction response was like, let's see what happens, man, which is how you plan to have a baby. And then we had sex and then we got pregnant that time. And then we had a baby, 9 to 10 months later. They say it's 9 months, but it's 10.
I know. That was such an unpleasant surprise.
I know. They trick us at every turn.
Only women bleed. Okay. So you have Jack and you're living in LA with Matt, your husband. And at this point, would you say this was the height of both of your addiction is when Jack was born?
Not immediately, but pretty soon after. I would say I stayed clean for about 6 months and then it was slowly started to progress and my anger started to get worse. And Matt didn't really know what to do. He didn't know how to be a dad. It was control. I wouldn't let him be a dad. I wouldn't let him participate. He was doing everything wrong. And I didn't have any outlet, like, I think that's a really important thing that brought me back from the brink of self-destruction, truly, was like finding an outlet again, a creative outlet. Because
you were just at home with Jack.
I was at home with Jack, and I didn't have any future. I didn't like see any future for myself. I was like waiting for this feeling of like joy having a baby to kick in. And I was having like intrusive thoughts, like really terrible thoughts. And it was just like, I think something's wrong. Like, I think something's really wrong. Like, weed's not fixing it. Alcohol's not fixing it, so I think something's really wrong. So I finally got help. I saw a psychiatrist, got on meds. And that was when I started to like realize, oh, I think I can be happy. I think that, we almost got divorced. Like, there was that a whole thing. So it's not like it happened overnight. It was just like, oh, a pill fixed it. Woo! No, I had to get on meds. I had to stop smoking weed. I had to stop drinking. I had to get sober. And it's like, when I look back on, you and I remember when you guys got me that shirt, The Ray of Sunshine, for my birthday. And it's like looking back on that girl, that they were all still there. All those feelings were still there. I was just really good at like pretending like they weren't, but even when we were out drinking, I was like dying inside, like I'm not enough, or people don't like me unless I'm like super sunshine, and so it was just like denial.
It's so interesting too, because what you were pushing out is like so hypnotizing. Like, do you remember one of Glennis's birthday parties one year where we all made Glesbian t-shirts? We all made shirts. Like, we used to call ourselves Glesbians, people that were obsessed with Glennis. Like, she has a name about how much people love her. Yeah. And then we had this t-shirt. Glennis. Okay, so also, this is such a perfect example, but because you are like so big and like good at bringing people together, Glennis's birthday parties were always theme birthday parties.
Oh, yeah.
But there would be like 11 themes. So it generally, like, base theme was karaoke.
Right.
And then it would be like karaoke and wigs. And then it'd be like karaoke and wigs and whatever. Like, there would be like 7 echelons. So then you would show up at a karaoke bar and people would be like dressed in homage to Glennis. So there was a time where we had t-shirts and markers and we all wrote lesbian in our own font, and wigs.
And wigs. And then we would have like potluck parties, and we would have like, what was the other one that we did? I guess it was all wigs. It was mostly all wigs.
I think wigs and karaoke were like the baseline.
The themes. Yeah, those were the themes.
Yeah, and yes, it was totally crazy. So that thing that you were doing to like hyper adjust and to push out this darkness was so like hypnotic for the rest of us, and I think would bring us into the, then everyone, like, we all felt like we were like the greatest versions of ourselves with Glennis. And I think like it's hard to separate these things, because I think we were, there was beauty and magic and joy there, but like the root of it, as your friend, I like learned more and more, like had such
Could you
darkness
tell
in
as
it.
her friend?
No-ish. Yes. I think like we have been very, very good friends. So I saw lows, I knew lows, and you can I could see, maybe I'm like more cognizant of it in hindsight than I was then, but you could like see when it would go from like joy to desperation. Like there was such beauty in like the right before the desperation. Do you remember you had that party at Sammy's?
Oh, yeah.
Sammy's Romanian Steakhouse. Have you ever been there?
No.
Oh,
so
God.
It's this Romanian steakhouse called Sammy's. And
Thank you.
You go, and it's family style meals, Romanian steak. So it's like big steaks, and then they put schmaltz on the table. But it's all like, it's an unlimited. I think it is.
Well, you pay
you pay like a flat fee.
They keep bringing out
they just keep putting like, but they'll put like vodka with a block of ice, orange juice, wine, and then and it's madness. And then they have this guy playing like old music.
He played like show tunes, but he's an old guy on a piano, and he'd be
electric
like,
piano.
On an electric piano, and be like, Billie Jean is not my lover. Like, it was just like the greatest place.
That sounds like
I hope it's still there.
It was the greatest. We went for your bachelor party, I think, but at one point we then are all dancing. It's all these women in a circle, maybe men, who knows, probably women. And he's playing The Winner Takes It All.
Oh, yeah.
And Glennis takes the mic. And then at one point she's laying on the floor and she's screaming because it's all women. The vagina takes it all. And you have like the greatest singing voice. So you're like belting it. And the whole room of all these people, all these tables are like, the vagina takes it all.
You forgot the second part. The peener standing small. But then I like started doing push-ups on the floor. It was like the greatest. And there were 2 nights. There was one that was my 30th birthday, and we had it. Everybody paid like $90, and and it was the whole room for us, and it was amazing. The other one was another birthday, and it was like there was a bachelorette party that was also there. Do you remember? Yeah. And the girls were like, not happy, but I can make anybody happy. And I was like, you're beautiful. This is your night too. And I love you. And let's celebrate this girl. And I, like if I'm drinking, when I was drinking in my 20s and I needed people to be, I was the party starter. Like I could make anybody feel good. And that I feel like it was like like it was just leeching the life out of me where I was just like, I don't feel good, but if you do, that's good for me, Do you remember my I'm not getting married party?
No, because that was before. Oh, that was Mitch. That was before me.
No, that was Horatio. It was I'm not getting married to Mitch. I'm with Horatio, who I started dating 30 days after I broke off my engagement to a man. And this was like a year after I started dating Horatio. So I broke off my engagement. This was a year to that date. And I was like, I'm going to have a big party because I'm not freaking out about this at all. This is great. So I had a big party at Planet Rose.
Broke off your engagement
to a guy named Mitch.
Okay.
And then 30 days later, I started dating a guy named Horatio. Okay. And then, a year after my broken engagement, I decided to celebrate that broken engagement. Like, I'm not getting married.
And you're still dating Horatio.
I'm still dating Horatio. Okay. And I was like, I dodged the bullet and I got so drunk. And this is when I would like turn, like you said, like that was perfect. I would be so fun. I was sitting on the bar and I was singing and I was like, this is the best night. And then all of a sudden I'm reaching back into the ice and chucking ice at people's heads. And then the night ended with me sitting in the middle of Avenue A saying, I hope a car hits me because no one's ever going to love me. Yeah.
That was a turn.
Yeah, that was a turn. That was a turn. Yeah.
It got darker there.
It got dark. Yeah. So, So, I mean, I can still have a really good time, but it's just a lot safer.
So lesbians. As soon as you said lesbians, I was like, we need you to run for president.
Oh, completely. I mean, Glennis is addictive. I mean, I don't want to say, because I don't want to reduce you to that because like you are like a smart, talented, lovely, beautiful woman, but you do have that superpower to like, just like whip people into like a frenzy of joy.
I don't know if I have that anymore. I don't know if I need to have that anymore. Right. I don't like that feeling of like needing to be something for everybody, but I do enjoy the way that I connect with people now because I can actually like look people in the eye and talk to them, which is great. And like find good things about people, even if I don't necessarily always want to be around them. I can still be like, you know what? I can still be kind to you. And it's not about me. Like, I feel like that's what was addictive. It's like, it was all about me and I'm happy. So I'm going to make you happy because you're around me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Don't run for president. It sounds
no, yeah,
like
exactly.
You're much happier now.
Yeah, exactly.
So we were talking. So you're like things are very bad. So the other thing I'm going to ask you now that we're going back to where you were post Jack, as you're dealing with everything, is that like I don't even know if it's important, but I think maybe it's important to explore. Like, how much of this do you think was addiction? How much of this do you think is postpartum depression, or like do you think there like? I mean, is it possible to even pull the two apart?
I don't know. I mean, I don't really know how much was. I feel like it's also layered and like there's so many different things. Like I used to say, well, I had a C-section and that's why I had trouble bonding with my son, you know, but that wasn't it. And lots of women have had C-sections and had no problem, and this is hard for people to hear. I get it. But like, I remember walking through the mall holding Jack when he was like 4 months old. And this was one of our, we wouldn't go out a lot, but this was one of our first real outings. And we're walking through the mall. And I was like, I convinced myself that if I didn't move closer to the wall, I was going to throw him over the wall. And I started shaking and like having a panic attack, but I didn't tell Matt because, I'm like silently suffer. Don't tell him. Like, he's going to think I'm a terrible mom and I'm going to be put away, So because I was having these thoughts, I was like, I need to wean him so that I can get high because otherwise I'm going to hurt him. You know what I mean? So it was like, I don't know. It was my way of coping. It was the only way I knew how to like get through being a mom because I was struggling big time. And if you are struggling, talk to somebody, you know, like find another mom and just tell her, because I've had one person I've told this story to a bunch of people just because I like to talk about it, because God forbid somebody else goes through it. I want them to know, like, it's okay to talk about it. But I've only had one person that was like, oh, and she was a mom and kind of judged me. And I was like, well, that's you, that's more you. But yeah. So yeah, I started smoking weed, like, alcoholically, I say. So it was all day, and then it was all night, and then it was in the morning, and then it was like I would get up at like 3 a.m. to get high and go back to bed, and then I started drinking more, and then the alcohol stopped working, and then the weed stopped working. So it was just this perfect storm of like, if this hadn't happened, would this have happened? Probably, but the postpartum definitely made it a lot faster.
Do you remember the day that you were like, that you decided to get help or seek another way of treating yourself?
Yeah. I mean, because I had put my son in his, when he would cry, it'd be a big trigger for me because I just didn't know what to do. Like I put him in his crib so that I could step away and get high. And I went and got high. And then I went back into his room and I was like even madder. So I went back into the bedroom and I dropped to my knees and I prayed. And I was just like, it was the only thing I could think to do. I was just like, help me, God. I've never even had a connection with God. Like I've never had a God in my life. I've never, so it was just like, that was the only thing I could think to do. And I just prayed and I was like, please, please help me. And because my husband had gotten sober, I saw it working with him, and I kept asking him, I'm like, do you think I have a problem? Because something's wrong. I think something's wrong. Do you think I have a problem? And he's like, I can't tell you that. Only you can tell yourself that, and thank God he said that, because that's when I went to, a program and started to get help.
That day?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Cause I mean, it was an emotional bottom. I didn't get arrested. I didn't lose my house. I didn't lose my son, but I was on the way to that for sure. Yeah.
So then you're sober, and then what does your life look like then?
Well, it was not easy. It was, I just I remember I used to go to meetings high. I didn't get sober right away. I would go to meetings high because I was so afraid. I was afraid of people. I was just afraid to be around people. I had been isolating for so long, and then I remember that there was somebody that said something about how hard it was the first night to get sober. And he was talking about marijuana. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, I hate to say this, but I was like, oh, you look like your life was a mess. So if he can do it, then I can do it. And I know him now and I love it. And he's, wonderful. And I've told him that. And he's like, oh, that's funny. Yeah, no, it really was. But yeah, so I was like, if he can do it, I can do it. So that first night was just like, I mean, people don't think marijuana is addicting, but it's a different beast than the stuff my dad used to grow in our basement. It's like, it's not. And I was vaping and I was very confused, and it was just it's very different now. And it is addictive. And, so yeah, that first night was really hard. And then it was just like, I just kept going to meetings. I just kept going back every single day. And slowly I just started to I got a sponsor and started working the steps, which is, just looking at my part in things like, how do I let these things still affect me? How am I holding myself back? Why, am I stopping myself from living this great life that I could have? Yeah, totally. So once I did the steps, it really and I made amends for things like walking out of a job and saying, go fuck yourself in the middle of the day, which I did in a spa with free childcare. That was great. And, once you walk those steps from your car to the front door of a place that you did that, and you're praying to get hit by a bus, this is the hardest thing I've ever done. And then you sit down with them and you say, I am so sorry. And it was wrong of me. And if there's anything I can do to make things right, and they forgive you and hug you, which doesn't always happen, but it did, then you're just like, okay, you know what? Maybe I'm not the monster I always thought I was, maybe people can be a lot of different things instead of just good or bad, So
I love that.
Yeah.
And when did you start getting creative again?
So I was thinking about that. I didn't mention this when we chatted, but I started a podcast with another person about lying, because I remember a moment in my son's room. He must have been like 8 months old, maybe a little older. And he was sitting down on the floor, and I was singing to him, and I was looking in the mirror, and I was like, oh my God, you are Big Edie. Like, you are turning into, Grey Gardens. Like, you're going to only perform, because that's what I'd always done. I had done karaoke, I had done piano bar, I had done these things when I couldn't perform anymore. I would like go and perform in these places where it was like low stakes, or whatever. And so I saw myself and I was like, oh no, like you need to, just in the back of my mind, I was like, you need to start seeing if you can do this again. So I started this podcast about lying to ourselves, about how we tell ourselves these, these things that aren't true, or we tell ourselves we don't have a problem or whatever it is. And that kind of got the ball rolling. And then I started doing voiceover again, and everything just kind of happened through sobriety. Like, I met these people that were like, here, I asked for help and people helped me. Imagine that. I'd never really asked for help before, without being like, pity me, let me complain to you for 14 hours, So like really asking for help. Like, I don't know what to do and I want to do this again. Like, I have an acting class and I have a voiceover agent and I audition for cartoons. And like, it's just crazy because I didn't plan any of it. I was just like, what happens if I open my mouth?
How is your creative life different now with this new mindset? Like, not only being a parent, but being sober and being like new Glennis.
It's not as important now. Like, before, it was the most important thing in the world. I always had this idea that when I was famous, everything would be great. Like, my whole thing was to be famous, and I don't remember what the exact moment was, but I lived in my hometown and I remember being like, okay, well, none of this matters. I'm unhappy. I don't have friends that really support me, but none of this matters because when I'm famous, then they're all going to come crawling back. And then I'll be able to be like, okay, now you want me. Now you want this. So that was always my goal. And that's not what being creative is. That's a terrible way to approach creativity because it's very empty. It's very hollow. It's just about getting stuff. It's not about expressing yourself. So now it's more about expressing myself. So, it's not like there's not this like panic about it, like if I do this show, then and I invite these people and then, they're going to give me a book deal and then this is going to happen and then I'm going to get a TV show and then I'm going to then I'll be happy. It's not then I'll be happy. It's life on life's terms. And, can I be gracious and live in gratitude about what I have right now? There's walking through New York today. I was like, oh my God, what if I could like live in a penthouse in New York and have like my son here and my husband here and like we could be rich and how can I make that happen? And I'm like, stop. Oh my God, stop. You are good, like you are good. And when I get to do things like this was so exciting to come here and do this. And, it's just staying in gratitude, keeping it small, keeping my life small, because when I try to get too big, I go off the rails.
I mean, I relate to that a lot.
That's
really, like I find myself, I've started doing this audio because I used to journal a lot, but now that I don't, like, if I'm sitting, I'm usually feeding Finn or holding Finn. Like, I don't have time to just sit and write as much. So I've started doing these audio journals when I'm strolling him while he's napping, and I'll just record myself. And I was saying, I found myself saying the other day, like, why am there's so many good things that are happening for me now that like my 30-year-old self or my 25-year-old self would have been like, you, like, once these things happen, like, you've done it, you're there. But I'm here. And instead of feeling like that, I'm like, what's next? What, like, I need the next thing. This isn't enough. And I mean, I don't think the thought this isn't enough, but that's the energy.
Yeah.
And it's so hard to bring myself back down and be like, just enjoy this, like being alive today.
Yeah. I mean, there are definitely moments where I'm just like, the universe is amazing. Like our bodies are amazing. Oh my God, and like that doesn't happen a lot, but there are those moments. And I mean, in general, I think it helped that I kind of almost lost everything, because it can go back to that place of like, you could not have your son right now. Let's appreciate him screaming in your face,
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't
And
know.
if they're screaming, they're breathing. So
Exactly. LOL.
Well, I remember thinking when I became a parent, because I also completely relate to that energy, that, when you're a kid and you look at your parents, you say, this is who they are. Like whoever they are is who they are. Even if I know my mother went to grad school when I was a kid to try to change her career. And, ultimately my parents split and my mother had this whole other life. And but if I think about it, in my kids' eyes, I am who I am right now. And that has to be great if I'm going to be a great mother. Like it has to be something that he's proud of or that he loves or that he can say, my mother is this in a way that is not, my mother is this, let's run. You know what I mean? So it made me sort of sit still and be like, so what are my kids seeing?
Mm-hmm.
And what is it that, and is that something I'm proud of?
Yeah.
Like, how are you a great person for your kid in a way?
Right. Or like, how would my child describe me? I don't want him to describe, he's 3.5, so his vocabulary isn't what, he's describing me in simpler terms. He's not going to be that emotionally intuitive, but I don't want him to describe me as someone who, like my mother is sad and goes upstairs and questions her life. I want him to describe me as my mother is someone who gets to do, who sometimes does shows at night or makes people laugh. Or my mother is someone who's happy and I have adventures with. My mother is someone who really loves to eat the same foods that I like. Like I want him to see me finding joy in my everyday and being a person with a personality that's not someone who's like on hold for what may happen, what future success may happen.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. And I think you can find that in anything. Cause I used to have a lot of shame around like doing nails because I thought, well, who's going to be, impressed with that? But then anytime I tell anybody, they'd be like, oh my God, what an amazing skill to have. Like you do art too. That's crazy. That's so cool. And I'd be like, no, it's not. Stop. It's stupid, and no, like, of course Jack's going to be, he's like, give me nails. Like he wants me to tape little fake nails on his fingers, like he thinks it's so cool. And it doesn't matter what it is, whether you're, performing on stage or you're working, the night shift somewhere, as long as you're doing something to like feed that part of you that, like that makes you feel creatively complete, so it's not just about like, if I get this, then I'll be happy.
Gets the attention of an agent. By the way, will you describe what your nails look like right now?
Oh, it's
because you are an insanely talented nail artist.
It is
artist
a
nail diamond.
Cellophane outer space mushroom adventure.
Can we take a picture for our social media?
Our social media, which is I'm Still
take a
Here, the
picture.
podcast. Is it? We'll have to. What is it?
I'm Still Here podcast. Yeah,
Yep.
that's it. I'm Still Here podcast.
That sounds right.
We didn't really do day in the life. Do you want to quickly? We'll do a day in the life. What's a day in your life like?
Jack goes to school 5 days a week, so he's in school 7:45 to 3 p.m. And
You wake up at what time?
6 every day. Every
6
day,
every
6
day?
a.m.
Him.
My son has never slept past 6:30 in the morning ever. Not once.
You know what they say? Mussolini made the buses run on time. When my kids do exactly that, like no matter what you've done with them the night before, it's like 6:01.
yeah.
I'm like, oh, Mussolini. Anyway, so little
Exactly.
Mussolini gets up at 6 a.m.
6 a.m. and we go into the living room. He has his Cheerios and milk. We kind of he sits there at his little table and we listen to music and we kind of decompress, but he doesn't have a lot of time. So what I want to do, which is another bad thing you should not say, but what I want to do is start doing like a meditation in the morning and read a little bit of, daily gratitude, but it never happens. Right. So we'll get there. But, and then he has to be to school at 7:45. So Matt will usually take him to school and I'll usually take bedtime. And then I will usually have a nail appointment or a voiceover audition due. And it seems like, the days 2:30 has come so quickly. And then Jack comes home and we play, we go to Target. He loves Target. He's got his priorities straight. Target, Costco, IKEA, he knows what's what. And then, and then we'll do dinner and bedtime. And it's just, that's kind of, I try to go to meetings every day if I can. It doesn't always work, but I try. So that's a big part of my day is going to the same meeting.
Right.
Yeah.
In the mornings or at night?
In the morning. Usually 9. Yeah. So that's the exciting life of.
And you're writing a
This ray of
show right
sunshine.
now?
I'm writing a show. Yeah. I'm writing a show that is, I'm actually really excited about the idea, which is it's set in a karaoke bar. Of
course.
Obviously.
Karaoke madam.
Exactly. Dance madam. And the host, it starts with somebody singing karaoke. It'll probably be my husband because he's amazing. And then the host calls somebody's name and I'm in the audience and I'm enraged because they haven't called my name all night. So I take karaoke night hostage and I start stealing everybody's songs and I won't let anybody leave. And I start telling stories based on the song that I've chosen. And I think I'm trying to figure out if it'll be random or what it'll be. But it'll get to a point where I've realized that I haven't sang any song that I wanted to sing all night long. So as the cops are coming to arrest me, I finally get to sing my song. And you have to see the show to see what the song's going to be, mostly because I don't know what the song's going to be.
I think it's the Vagina Takes It All.
I think it might be the Vagina Takes It All. And the cops are like dragging me away. And like, yeah, so I'll be like, this is the right thing. It's okay. Sing your songs, So yeah, that's my show. And I just realized that every recording that I did in my acting class got erased when I got my new phone. So yeah, so that's okay.
Oh.
I know the stories, I have them. So it's really just about telling the stories. And so
Are they true stories?
yeah, they're all true stories. And every song has a story to go with it. So yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
What's the next step for the show?
Fringe. I'm going to submit it to the Fringe. So yeah, I have to like really type it out and, have a script, but it's pretty much ready to go. I just have to really make sure I have the songs and stories paired together. So
So exciting.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to see it.
yeah. So hopefully I can bring it out here and do it somewhere.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you, guys.
Glennis.
Thank you.
So fun.
We've
So
converted a crowd of lesbians. Thank you so much, Glennis, for coming by.
Thanks,
I love
Kate.
to talk to
Thanks,
you.
Mary.
And that's season 1 of I'm Still Here. We hope you've enjoyed listening to our guests as much as we have, and we'll see you next season for more stories of creating art as parents. I'm Mary Adkins.
And I'm Kate Tellers. Get creative. Go to imstillherepodcast.com to find links where you can rate, review, and subscribe.
I'm still here.